So, do you ever find yourself accidentally recording portrait video or just video in the wrong orientation? I mean, this one we can see needs to be flipped around 90 degrees counterclockwise. That one's fine. Fine. Again, 50 degrees anti-clockwise, maybe counterclockwise, wherever you're from. Yeah, these all need rotating. So that's a little bit annoying. First thing I've got to do is flip a lot of these videos around. Now, there are ways to do this, and one way would be to do it in your video editor of choice. So let's open up Kdenlive. It's just the one that I have. Pop that into here, and let's do some rotation. Now, rotation's actually not that easy a thing to do. Well, I mean, it's easy enough to do in the app here, for instance. So we can just go to crop and transform, rotate and shear, and then we can rotate by minus 900 degrees. And there you go, it's rotated. Awesome. And minus 900 because we wanted to go anti-clockwise. If I put 900, it would now be upside down. So minus 900, okay, fine. Cool, that was rotated, that's fairly easy. But now if we play, I swear I used to be able to double click on this and go full screen. No? Oh, there we go, yeah, that'll do. You can see the video doesn't look particularly smooth, does it? And the reason for this is because it's essentially trying to do the transcoding and the rotation all at the same time, and this will be on a lower resolution, lower quality copy, so this really is just a preview. And even just doing that, you can hear the fans are spinning up and the CPU's going for it. So yeah, that kind of sucks. And we haven't even scaled it to fill the entire screen yet, because for some reason in Kdenlive it goes, okay, I'll rotate it. There you go, it's rotated. Doesn't think, oh, well, you'll want to scale it. That's a separate operation. So we can bring in a crop, scale, and tilt effect. And we've got to move these over here because for some reason it defaults to putting them way too far. And then we start playing with the scale options, and it's quite fiddly. Maybe there is a better way to do this in Kdenlive that I'm just not aware of. But sitting here fiddling with these sliders, trying to get it just right, is not my idea of fun. And quite frankly, just, you know, it isn't worth my time to sit here and do this over and over again for all the videos that I need to rotate. So there is, oh, well, maybe you can hear that, even just moving around. The fans are spinning up. You hear that? Because not only are we scaling, but we're also scaling the rotated video. So we're putting effects upon effects, which is fine. I think you can reorder them as well. There you go. You can put them in different orders, and that's great. You can do all kinds of things. But it means that the process of editing video in this suite becomes very slow and clunky and, quite frankly, noisy when the fans are going. And it's not ideal. I also find, as much as I like Kdenlive, it is a little bit crashy. So anything that I can do outside of Kdenlive and prepare before I bring things in and start moving around with time and playing with timelines and you know, transitions between videos and stuff like that. If anything I can do before that, I think is probably worth doing. So let's see if we can find a way to script and to automatically rotate videos that are portrait, essentially. Now, before we can actually start to rotate videos, we need to determine which videos need rotation. So, let's write a little script that can tell us whether or not a video needs to be rotated, and maybe what its rotation is. So, we can find out the rotation of a video by querying its metadata. And to do that, we're going to use a tool called exiftool. There we go. And here's the manual page for it. Ooh, user-contributed Perl documentation. Nice. So, I'm not going to read this to you. You can have a look at this yourself. But it supports a lot of different file formats and metadata formats, including exif, where it gets its name from, but also all kinds of interesting other stuff like QuickTime or Nikon or Ryko. So there are many, many, many different metadata formats, and there are many, many different media formats that could use any of those metadata formats. Well, I say it's not that any of them could use any of them, it's that any of them could be using one of all of them, sort of thing. So, I don't know if that made any sense. I hope it did. Anyway, you can have a look at this yourself. It's worth having a look around. So, let's actually do something. So, this is from my previous attempts to record this. So, let's have a look at the metadata for the first video. exiftool and the file name. And we've got lots of interesting information, including timestamp, which is quite handy. So if you have a look at my file names, you can probably guess that I've got a script that goes through and grabs the timestamps and renames them according to that, because that tends to work quite well. The odds of having two photos taken at exactly the same moment is... those odds are extremely low. For videos recorded using my Android phone, it's got second resolution, but for photos they generally have nanoseconds on them, so you're alright. Duration, that's quite a useful piece of information to be able to get hold of. I have no idea what video temporal layer count is, but it sounds cool. We've got the resolution, that could be useful. And down here we've got rotation. Now this video has a rotation of 0. Now that doesn't really tell us what this is representative of, but we could perhaps guess that maybe it is the number of degrees of rotation, because we know that this video is... oh dear, actually let me mute the sound because we don't need the sound. That this video is already landscape and the correct way round. So let's assume that this is degrees. Let's have a look at another one. So we know that this one is portrait. So let's have a look at the EXIF data for that. Well, sorry, the metadata. And there we go. Rotation, 90 degrees. Okay, so let's write a quick little script that, given a video file, will tell us what the rotation of that video is. That seems like quite a nice small bit that we can do. So let's open up another editor, well, another terminal, and I'm going to go into a directory that I know is on my path, .files bin, and I'm going to touch a new file called video rotation. I'm going to make it executable because we're going to want to be able to execute this script. And now let's get to writing. First thing we need to do is put in our shebang line and say that we want to run this script as bash. Set file type shell, just so we get some highlighting. Now the command to get the rotation was fairly simple. It was just exiftool. So we know that we're going to need to do that. But first off, we need a video file. So let's say declare file is $1. So our first argument is going to be the name of the file that we want to look at. And then we want to say exiftool file. Now, in this case it's safe, but I would generally say you're always wanting to put variables into double quotes, because if this file name had a space in it, you could have problems. So double quote it. So now we can run that script and see what happens. Video rotation, that file, there we go, same thing back. Now we don't want the whole thing, we just want the rotation. So I'm sure you can probably guess that we can use sed for this. Sed, don't print the lines, because I want to control when lines are printed. And let's say that the line has to begin with rotation in order to be printed. And if we run that, there it is. In fact, I'm going to start clearing the screen just to make things a little bit clearer. So there you go, there's our rotation and it's 90 degrees. But this is, okay, it's great, but why do we need to, we know that we're going to get rotation because our script is called video rotation, so we don't really need that. We don't need all this space and we've only got the one value, so let's just output this bit. So again, let's just modify our sed script and we want to make a change to this line. The change is that we want to match absolutely anything up to a colon, so we're going to match absolutely anything up to and including a colon. Also the space, because we don't want that, so let's include the space. And now we're going to create a capture group, because we want to now capture everything from 90 to the end of the line. Now in this particular terminal, I can highlight all the way to the end of the line, but there are actually no spaces there. So let's just say we want to capture everything. Let's be wildly liberal with it and anchor that to the end of the line. And then we want to replace the entire line with what we captured. So now let's run that and see what we get. There you go. This video has a rotation of 90 degrees. Now let's have a look into actually performing the rotation itself. So for this, we're going to use a tool called FFmpeg. You may have heard of it. It's quite popular, and it's one of those tools that tends to be used more often as an enabler to do something. It's not a tool that users tend to use directly, mostly because it is a command line tool. It's quite big and hairy, and it's got lots of options, and I completely understand why it looks scary. It's also, I'm guessing, written by mathematicians, because the rotate filter is actually called transpose. This is a very mathematician term when you're dealing with matrices. I believe, anyway, I'm not a mathematician, don't quote me on that, but I believe that that's what that's about. So once you found it, great, you know what you're looking for, but until then it seems quite opaque. Could have a quick look at the man page. I presume it's quite, oh yes, it's large, it's got diagrams. And it's these filter graphs that make it so incredibly powerful. Now most people will only use it in as far as basically this example that they show on their homepage. Converting video and audio has never been so easy, and it's true. If all you want to do is take the video and audio that's in an MP4 and put it into an AVI, absolutely, that's all you need to do. It can guess what you want based on the file names. So it looks at file names and tries to interpret those. If you want to do stuff with it, it gets a lot more complicated than that. But once you understand what's going on, it's still relatively straightforward. And this is about as complicated as it gets. You can have all kinds of inputs coming in, you can do things with those streams, and then you can route those then modified streams to various outputs, essentially is what it comes down to. Now, in order to do a rotate, as I mentioned, we need to find a filter called transpose. And here it is. Again, have a look at the description of it. Transpose rows with columns in the input video and optionally flip it. That's definitely a mathematician's way of saying rotate the video and optionally flip or mirror it. So if you were looking for rotate here, well, I don't know, is there anything called rotate here? Yeah, you're just going to find things like rotate hue and, oh my god, some scary looking source code, and rotate video by an arbitrary angle expressed in radians. I suppose that would work as well. I didn't actually know this one existed, so there we go, I've learnt something new. Still, I'm going to stick with transpose because that's what I have, by this point, practiced this screencast 1,000 times because I keep re-recording it and I'm never happy with it. So, transpose, there we go. So, let's do that. Here we are in my downloads folder still, and we've got these videos. We know that this one needs rotating. Let me just check the turn the audio back off because you don't need that. We can confirm that. There you go. This definitely needs rotating. So let's try FFmpeg -I for input, this video, and now we want to use a video filter. So the argument for this is VF, video filter, and what we want to do is use transpose, and it needs an argument of C-clock flip, clock, C-clock, or clock flip. So in this case, let's just rotate it 90 degrees. So let's say clock. And now we're going to output it. And let's just make that a bit smaller. Paste in our file name and call that rotated. And now we can run this. Oh no! Protocol not found. Well, remember when I mentioned that it can look at your input and output parameters and guess what you mean by this? Well, that's it tripping up, basically, on my file names. And the hint here is, did you mean file? So I think this error string would be a little bit clearer if it just said 2018 protocol not found. Because what it looks at is, oh, well, my cursor's still red on the end. That's interesting. Never seen that before. Anyway, looks at the file name and goes, it assumes it's going to be a file, unless it sees something followed by a colon, in which case it's going to assume that the something is a protocol name, like, you know, maybe it's an HTTP or maybe it's RTSP or some other kind of format of delivery of video and audio streams, basically. And it's going, oh, 2018, I don't understand that protocol. So we just need to be extra explicit with it and say file, and then what follows is the file name. And we need to do that on the input side as well. If we run that, you'll see it works. Now, this is actually doing a transcoding. So the fans are going to spin up, and we're going to see high CPU load. And that's okay. You can probably hear the fans starting to spin up now. That's okay, because what we are actually doing is a CPU intensive thing. We are converting video and we're modifying it on the way through. It's just that I think I would prefer to be able to break what I'm doing up into smaller steps, like I'm going to rotate these videos, and be able to just run them on their own in a scriptable fashion outside of Kdenlive. Because as much as I like Kdenlive, it's a bit crashy. So any load that I can take off it, I'm going to. This also has the benefit that I can just leave this running in the background while I go to lunch, for instance. If I can tolerate the fans, then I can leave it going overnight. Don't worry about this past duration too large. I'm not sure what it means, I'll be honest, but the videos that it produces are perfectly fine. They play no problem. And that was a very short video, so the rotation didn't take very long. Now let's have a look at what we've got. And we see we have an extra video now, same file name, but it's rotated MP4. So let's just have a look at this. Oh no! It's upside down. Okay, so it seems that there's a distinction between if we want to rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise. And we saw that in the documentation here. Thank you, there it is. I really wish you could keep track of that when it resizes, but apparently not. Oh no, okay, fine. So we see we've got C-clock flip, because counterclockwise. We've got clock, C-clock, and clock flip. So we did a clock, but it turns out what we needed was a C-clock. Looks like we're going to need to be a little cleverer about this. So let's just have a look and see what the state of all our videos is. So let's just delete that. Delete that file. And use our newly created video rotation script to tell us what the rotation of these files is. So let's say for file in ls*.mp4, because we're only interested in the mp4 files, do echo file, and then we want the rotation, and we can do that using another command substitution to say video rotation file. Now, this may seem a little bit odd. You don't actually have to escape these double quotes, even though they're inside these double quotes, because they're within a subshell. So you open double quotes and it goes, okay, that's fine, I've opened some quotes. You then say, I'm opening a subshell, or a command substitution subshell, and it goes, new subshell, okay, goes into a new context. This subshell knows nothing about the quotes outside it, so you can then use double quotes here unescaped, but if you wanted to use double quotes inside these double quotes, you would need to escape them. So let's just run that. There you go. All our videos and their respective rotation. Now, it seems that when it says 90 degrees, it means 90 degrees clockwise rotation. So what we actually wanted to do was 90 degrees anti-clockwise rotation. For 180 degrees, it's not going to matter. We just need to pick one of the rotations and do it twice. So we can rotate once, and then we can rotate again, and that flips it, or turns it all the way around. Or we could do that the other way, and it has exactly the same effect. So, let's write a little wrapper script that can take these, well, maybe not these, but take an expression of how much rotation we want in degrees and map that to these transpose commands. Now that I'm aware of the other rotate filter, I can't believe I didn't know about that before, we probably could just do something with converting degrees to radians and doing that. Maybe I can come back and modify this script to do that, but for now we'll just stick with this. So let's keep this window open because I think we're going to find it useful. And I'm going to open another terminal window. In fact, let's just move that like that. There we go. And again, we're going to cd into a place where I know it's on my path. .files bin. and I'm going to create a file with touch, and we're going to say it's going to be called rotate video. We're going to make that script executable just like we did before, and we're going to enter into it and start writing our script. So again, shebang line, user bin env bash, and set file type shell. Okay, so let's say that our first parameter is going to be the file name. So how do we want to use this? We're going to say rotate video, going to give it a video, and we're going to say what we want to rotate it by. So let's say we want to rotate it minus 90 degrees. So we're going to take two arguments, a file name and a rotation. So let's do that. Let's just bring this over here. Declare file is argument 1. Declare rotation is argument 2. So far so good. Now the command that we need to execute to do this, let's go back up to here and have a look at that, is this. So let's just put this in and see what we get. FFmpeg -i file. Remember that we need to be explicit about file because it might contain colons. Colon is a perfectly legitimate character to have in a file name if you're not running macOS, where it is a directory separator, just out of curiosity, interest. Bit of trivia there. So file is file. That's the input file. And just to keep things tidy, I'm going to break these onto new lines. The video filter, for now we'll just hardcode this, transpose clock. And the output, file. Now for a start we can't do this because we don't want to, I mean we might be able to do that, I'm not sure, I haven't tried. But we don't want to touch our original file, we want to keep those. So let's say we create a new file name for the new file. Declare new file. And we want to base it off the original file name. So new file is file. We could call it file rotated. But I'm not such a fan of that. I like to have the actual file extension be at the end. Because, you know, a file manager is going to look at that and go, well, what on earth is a .rotated file? I've never seen one of those. We want to put the rotated here, in between, essentially, the file name and the extension. And we can do that with some parameter expansions in Bash. Now, let me look up the documentation for this, because while I do know them, I'm pressuring myself at the moment, and I guarantee I'll flip them around, get them the wrong way around. So, man, bash, parameter expansion. Now parameter expansion is basically when you have a variable but you want to do something to it before you use it. And only in this case, it doesn't modify the variable, just where you're using it. And in this case, we want to use these ones. Remove a matching prefix pattern and remove a matching suffix pattern. And then you have the small match or a big match variants. So we can use these to strip off the file name and the extension, respectively, I guess. This will strip off the file name because it removes a matching prefix, and this will strip off the extension because it will remove a matching suffix. So we can say, if we use the long variable syntax, this, you know, with the curly braces, and say file percent, we want hash first because we want to strip off the, we do want percent because we want to strip off the extension. So star. So everything that matches dot and then anything. This isn't a regular expression, this is just a star wildcard, you know, like you'd expect, you know, star dot star. Anything that matches dot star will be removed. And then over here, you can do the same thing, file, and anything that matches star dot, remove. So this gives us our file name, and this gives us our file extension. And then we've got rotated in the middle. So now we can say file is new file. Excellent. Now let's just give that a quick try. Make sure that it is putting the file name together the way I expect it to. So let's say rotate video, and the video we want to rotate is this one. And I'm not going to bother giving it rotation at the moment because we don't use it. So we just want to see what file name it produces. Okay, that's looking good so far. And there it is, rotated. The file name has been created correctly. So hooray! Kill that file. There we go. Now we need to decide what kind of video filter we want to use for this rotation, right? So we're going to decide based on this second parameter, rotation. So let's say case rotation in sac, which is just case spelt backwards. So if we've been asked to rotate 0 degrees, there's very little that we need to do, so we can just exit. And we don't even need to exit with an error code because, well, you asked for the video to be the right way round, it is the right way round. There you go, not a problem. If we ask for 90-degree rotation, then let's declare VF, video filter, to be transpose clock. If we want minus 90-degree rotation, we can declare VF to be transpose C clock. And if we want a 180-degree rotation, let's say that's going to be transpose clock, comma, transpose clock. So that'll just do it twice. And anything else is going to be an error. Echo unknown rotation value, rotation. Let's output that to standard error and exit with a code of 1, and that's done. So I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. There we go, that'll do. And now we can go down here and use our new variable, VF. Now, there is no case here where VF doesn't get declared, so we're okay. But we could, just for some extra safety, say if 0 length VF, then echo no video filter, and echo. Send that to standard error and exit to. Just to be a little bit more defensive. And actually, while we're being defensive about it, before we try to use these, let's say if number of arguments is less than 2, because we know we need 2 arguments, then echo usage rotate video file rotation in degrees. And, oh no, let's not echo that to standard error. That seems like perfectly legitimate use. And then we can say exits. Yeah, let's say exit 1. And this can be 2, and that can be 3. There we go. So first we check that we've got less, if we've got less than 2 arguments, then we want to say, you're not using me properly, this is how you use me. Use the rotate video command, give me a file name, and give me a rotation in degrees. And then we say exit 1, because simple exit error case. We can then grab these 2 arguments and put them into variables, which just helps to label what they are so that we can follow the code a little bit easier. Let's build a new file name for our rotated video. So we're just going to take the existing file name and just stick rotated in just before the last extension, because these are non-greedy. So actually, that's non-greedy, that's probably going to need to be greedy, I think. I don't know, I've probably just made a mistake there, but if I have made a mistake, please let me know in the comments. Then we have a look at our rotation parameter, and we say if it's 0, we don't need to do anything, and we can exit with a 0 exit status because, well, everything's good. And if it's any of these values, then we can say we want a video filter, and we want it to be transpose equals, and then either clock, cclock, or run transpose twice. Otherwise, give us an error. If by some miracle we don't have a VF variable, or it just hasn't been set, or it's empty, then we've got an error case here, so we can prevent us trying to invoke FFmpeg and getting some strange, crazy FFmpeg error coming out. This is probably going to be a lot clearer to us if we say no video filter. Oh, okay, right, you know. In fact, let's just make it extra clear. Rotate video, no video filter, and do the same thing there. There we go. So now we can see where these errors have come from. So we're going to know that this is not an error that came from FFmpeg. This is something that came from our script, and so might not be that difficult to debug, because after all, we wrote it. And then last thing, we get to FFmpeg and say, right, this is what we want to do. We want to take input file from our argument. We need to run it through whichever video filter we decided on up here, and then we want to output it to the new file. So let's make sure that's all saved and try our moment of truth. So here are our videos. That's the second one. We know that we need to rotate this by minus 90 degrees, right? So rotate video. Here's the file name, and we want to rotate it by minus 90. Wish me luck. No! Transpose. Oh dear, what have I done? Transpose. I did the same thing there, didn't I? There we go, that's better. Okay. Once more with feeling. Overwrite. Okay, now it's asking if I want to overwrite this. Now, yeah, this is the output file, so yeah, okay, fine, it's overwritten. That's not a problem, but let's just say no for the moment and have a look at the files. Now you can see that the very first thing it does is create the new destination file, and we can see that it is 0 bytes long. This is an entirely empty file. So trying to use file here as the input and the output, what you would wind up doing is truncating your file, and then FFmpeg would go, well, this is an empty file, I don't know what you expect me to achieve here. So let's just delete that one and run again, and this time it's going to work. Hooray! Let's just stretch the window open so that it doesn't keep doing that. Why is it still doing that? There we go. So now it's just updating the single line in place. Ta-da! There we go. Here's our rotated video, and let's just confirm that this time it's not upside down. Right, so it's just MPV full screen. There we go. It is now the right way round. Right, so now that we've got those two scripts, all it is a case of putting the two together. So once again, let's open up another terminal, and I'm going to go to again a location that I know is on my path. So .files, bin, and I'm going to touch a new file, and let's call this normalize video rotation. Let's make it executable, and let's edit it. Put in our shebang line, use a bin env bash, and we're just going to tell Vim that it is a shell syntax file, so it'll highlight it nicely. Right, so what do? We're going to assume that this script is going to be called with no arguments in the directory that contains the videos we want to rotate. So let's say for file in ls star.mp4. Again, we could make this a lot more sophisticated, but this will do for now. Do done. We want to grab the rotation of the file, so declare rotation is video rotation file, and then we can say case rotation in ESAC. Right, now what are the different rotation values and what do we want to do if we encounter them? So the first is 0. If there's 0 rotation, then we can just continue because there's nothing we need to do with that file. If there's 90 degrees of rotation, then we want to rotate the video file, and we want to rotate it by -90 because we want to turn it back on itself. If it's 180 degrees rotated, again we want to rotate video, but this time we want to rotate it by 180 degrees just to put it back. If it's 270 degrees, not that I have any videos that are 270 degrees, or not that I've seen any, but it doesn't seem beyond the realm of reason that you could end up with videos that have 270 degrees of rotation. Rotate video file 90 degrees, because we only need to rotate it one more step clockwise in order to get it back round where we want it. And if it's something else entirely, echo, actually, you know what, we can just do that. That will give us the name of our script. Unknown video, unknown rotation value. That'll do. Rotation. And we can send that to standard error because this is an error case. And we could exit with 1. Let's not exit with 1. Let's just continue. Move on to the T-I-N-U-E. Help if I could spell. Let's just move on to the next file. So echo unknown rotation value, and let's just put the name of the file in so that as and when we come back to, you know, when we scroll up and have a look at our output, we can see which file had the issue. So yeah, I think that's all we need to do. I'm just going to align these for the sake of prettiness. I generally don't align code that much, but in the case of something like this, there are very few options. This isn't going to change very much, so I'll do it. And if I do find myself constantly realigning this code, I'll just stop aligning them. But for now, it looks quite pretty to do so. Yeah, I think that looks pretty. Well, maybe we should put that up there. Yeah, let's do that. There you go. That looks good. Yeah. Okay, I'm done now. I'm done. So, yeah, I think that's it. Let's try that. Normalize video rotation. Go. Woohoo! It works. Now I'm going to stop this because we know that it works. But as you can see that, I issued a Control-C to cancel the process, and it cancelled that FFmpeg process, but then moved on to the next one in the loop. So I think at some point we're going to need to discuss trapping signals and having this script go, oh, hang on, I've just received a Control-C, you know what, I'm going to kill the whole thing. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of rotated videos that are incomplete, so rotated, delete, and I'm nice and clean, and we've got our automatic video rotation. I thought I'd kill that because I don't want the fans to start spinning up just on the outro. So yeah, there you go. There is automatically rotating videos and normalizing them so that they are all the right way round, basically. This takes a lot of load off needing to do this in Kdenlive. It means I don't have to fiddle around with sliders. And you know what, it gave me a bit of material for another screencast. Apologies that this one is so long. I've been having a look, sort of reviewing the footage as I go through, and yeah, this is a long one, so if you're still with me, then thank you very much. I hope it was useful, interesting, entertaining, whatever it is that you get out of these videos. I promise there will be another electronics video reasonably soon. I mean, all the footage that you saw me working with here is me trying to cobble together another electronics video for you. So if you're here for the electronics and not for the screencasts, then please bear with me. There will be some more, but you have to appreciate that screencasts are perhaps a little bit quicker and easier to produce. So you know what, though, I say that, I have... Yeah, no, I can definitely spend a lot of time working on these things because I just keep going round and round and round in circles, going, oh, that's not quite right. Oh, that wasn't... Oh, I misspoke there. Oh, no, you can see the jump in the clock. So, yeah, I agonise over all these little details. So, yeah, I do hope it was beneficial to someone. These scripts... Yeah, I guess I'll just stick these in GitHub. I'll leave them in my .files repository, and I'll chuck a link to them in the video description if you would like to use these scripts yourself. Yeah, go for it, please. And if you are a GitHub user and you would like to submit me a pull request on any of them, then please do. I'd be absolutely chuffed. So there you go. There's automatically rotating videos from the command line in a scripted, don't make me think about it manner. Have a good one.